Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me for this delayed International Education live chat for SMIE Consulting Midweek Roundup. It's actually Friday instead of Wednesday, our normal day for doing the roundups. Just had a really crazy last couple of days, but really happy to be in one location for 2 or 3 days here in São Paulo, Brazil, attending the ICEF Latin America event, basically to connect with agencies in this region, everywhere from Canada down to Chile, everywhere in between, that are eager to send students to the US, Canada, Germany. You've got some UK schools, a lot of high schools here. Language programs are here. The agencies are typically looking for either language centers abroad, high school boarding schools abroad, and then a few are looking for universities, and we are one of, I think, 10 U.S. institutions, and most of those are high schools. There's only about 4 or 5 universities, recognized universities, that are here attending. So it's an interesting mix of people that are here for this event. My first time to an ICEF agent event. We're focusing on Latin America in terms of new development for agency partners. We have some of our global representatives. IDP doesn't really have offices here. MSM is here. Apply Board is here, but not really active, I think, in terms of student numbers coming out to the U.S. So we're here to meet with the folks on the ground that are specific to this region, that could potentially are looking for institutions in the United States where they can potentially send their students. So I'm going to rewind a little bit and talk about what else I've been doing on this trip, because late last week or over the weekend, I had the pleasure to be in Guayaquil, Ecuador, to present a workshop. I was invited by a colleague who had met last February at the AIEA conference to do a workshop for Ecuadorian universities on internationalization. So had the opportunity to discuss, there were about 22 folks from about 11 different universities there. Really a good group of professionals that frankly have a very much an uphill battle at their institutions, the way they are set up at their institutions, the way what kind of funding they have or don't have. Flexibility for things international is much more limited than I was aware of. Certainly for me, I learned as much from them as they learned from me. Had an opportunity to share different pieces. It was a complete internationalization workshop over 2 days. Can't go too deep into any one subject, but we did have we talked about student recruitment, how to bring students to your campus for degree programs for study abroad. We talked about sending students abroad more directly to the United States, other countries. Talked about internationalizing the curriculum, what that looks like, what that means. So it was a very robust discussion, and frankly, I really enjoyed that. I had at the end of each day, we did a little small group activity where they had to get together. First day, we did a session on identifying a country in the world that their institution should recruit from, based on some of the things we'd shared, and having some of the data to back it up. And we used the 6 Ps, my 6 Ps of strategic international enrollment management that I talk about here regularly on the Roundup and in our newsletter. We talk about that as a tool to really leverage some guiding principles, really, not necessarily here's you got to do this, you got to do that, but using these 6 Ps as principles for how you should approach international education, starting with that global and local perspective, starting with a significant planning effort and data-driven strategies, talking about using the right platforms and picking the right partners, and hence my presence here in São Paulo today for this ICEF event, the right partners. And then also the importance of personalization of messaging that institutions do with students abroad, and also the need to involve current students in the recruitment of future students. So that was a very productive workshop, frankly, and I mentioned this on some posts on social media last weekend, that really for me, seeing the value of that workshop for the participants and being able to learn from them about their experiences related to having and oftentimes a very decentralized approach to international that is department level, even beyond simple college level. It's department level, even in some schools, for internationalization, and it's very rarely a comprehensive or international office. It's in terms of inbound and outbound, it's usually one or the other. Some of it might be just purely academic in some institutions. So there's some real holes, I think, for a lot of those institutions in terms of their ability to do significant internationalization. And one of the things that we shared in the workshop last weekend was really the importance of identifying who your champions are on campus that can help support you as you look to internationalize. And for Ecuadorian universities, it's a very different prospect than it might be at a U.S. college or university. So it was really great learning from them about the way their structures are set up. When we talked about something like internationalizing the curriculum, for most for Ecuadorian universities, they are in a position where they don't have a lot of flexibility in their curriculum in terms of gen ed. There really doesn't exist that as a concept. It's very much academic focused, major specific degree program. And there might be 3, 4, 5 classes out in a 3 or 4 year curriculum that students don't take in their major. And those are typically directed by the university, so that's kind of a mini core that we would call that they would have to take. So for us, learning that, when you talk about internationalizing the curriculum and what does that look like, there's not a lot of flexibility in their curriculums that they have now to add new programs that would apply for all students. So as part of a gen ed requirements, like we do in the States, what in turn they have to do is within each department to find those courses specific to the major that can be international focused, that can involve a component, say for business, to requirement to study abroad, or to have global culture courses required, or intercultural competencies or intercultural communications parts of courses that they take. So we talked about what internationalizing at home means, and not just necessarily in the curriculum, but also potentially what that means in terms of having students from varying perspectives on campus, faculty from various countries that are giving the classes, teaching the classes. So it's interesting, the definitions. We spent a lot of time defining our terms in terms of what constitutes internationalizing curriculum, what does internationalizing at home mean. When it came to study abroad options, most in terms of them sending their students overseas, that it was very limited, and oftentimes it was regional. It tended to be a lot of institutions within South America or Latin America that would be primary partners. And then oddly enough, it was a lot of Europe, specifically Belgium. Had a number, for these Ecuadorian universities, had a number of partnerships in Ecuador. So really fascinating to learn from another country's universities as to what challenges they're grappling with on the internationalization front. So that was the beginning of my trip, and ended up taking a red eye from Guayaquil through Lima to Sao Paulo over the weekend. And arrived Tuesday, I think. I don't know what day it is, really. It's Friday, I think. But arrived on Tuesday and spent the majority of the day, Tuesday, Wednesday, spent the majority of the day with a future partner of ours from UF, Universidad Federal dos ABC, in Santo Andre, city very close to Sao Paulo, just to the south, in the same state, Sao Paulo state. I met this gentleman at AIEA as well. We met again at NAFSA, and when I knew I was coming here for the ISIF event, I said, I got to visit Dalmo at UF do ABC, and had a great visit with him. We spent the day really getting to know his institution. It's a focused institution. It's one of the federal universities or national universities in the country. The only one, I think, in the state of Sao Paulo. and it is prioritizes a lot of the same things that we do in terms of its student body. Very much a first gen. They have in Brazil, unlike in the U.S. now, the ability to set quotas. They use that specifically, where about half of their incoming class each year are from disadvantaged groups or groups within the Brazilian society that are underrepresented at universities and that are public universities. So those students get to attend for free. So it's interesting seeing the dynamics at play there. Sharing similarities with us at UNLV is around 30% first gen, 35% first gen, 30% Hispanic, and all of the diversity pieces that are part of who we are as a university. And even though we don't have the Supreme Court, aren't really affected by the Supreme Court decision because we don't use race in admissions in the U.S., here they do. It's very much a part of admissions. It's a part of government policy for public universities to use race in determining who gets submitted and who doesn't. So where we are with that in terms of the U.S. versus Brazil in that debate is certainly interesting. Getting to share perspectives on those issues from either side was very useful. We got a chance, obviously, to tour his academic facilities. They have very much a science-based institution in the life sciences, in engineering. That's where their priorities are, so very STEM-heavy. They don't really have a lot of other non-STEM programs or non-science-based programs at the university, at least at the undergrad level. But we toured their facilities. He also was very kind and took me on he knew that I don't sleep on planes, so he talked about keeping me up, and he did so. We went visiting different places within São Paulo that I never would have seen on my own. We went to the Mercado Municipal for lunch, amazing market, fruit and vegetable and meat and fish market there. Went to the cathedral in São Paulo and really got to know Dalmo as a person. And for me, I think most of my colleagues in the field agree, our relationships mean everything in terms of our ability to have productive conversations and productive pipelines of students both ways. And really, we find the most success with those people that we get along with, frankly, and our institutions are in alignment. And for Dalmo and myself, we're both the same age. We both have one son who's around the same age, and it's just really interesting to share those stories, our Gen X stories, about how we grew up and how kids are now. So very, very useful for me to have that experience with him. That time with him, frankly, that builds a relationship. He's coming to the CAE conference in November that we're hosting in Las Vegas, along with other Nevada universities. So we're very, very much looking forward to returning the favor and hospitality that he showed me when he comes to Las Vegas in the next 6 weeks. So that was a really important piece of the puzzle. Now for this ISIF event, it is... came here last night for the reception and the event, the meetings that we're having. It's sort of basically speed dating with agents and institutions. So I would say the U.S. out of the 100 or so institutions that are represented here, we're less than 10%, maybe 10% of the total. So there are representatives from British Council IELTS, from Flywire, from a variety of other service providers that are here, looking to connect with institutions and with some of the folks there. Because it's in São Paulo, this event, it's heavy on the Brazilian agents and other partners that are looking to connect abroad. So it's good because we have not done significant recruitment here at all in Brazil. Certainly not student recruitment until this trip. We're hoping to identify for UNLV probably 3, maybe 4 partners out of the 2 days of meetings that we're doing. We're meeting with 30. I'm meeting with 32 people over today and tomorrow, and hopefully trying to find 3 or 4 diamonds in the rough that we can work with. A lot of them are new to recruiting that are interested so far, are new to promoting the U.S. as a destination, so interesting to see that. The majority are looking to place for language study as well as potential degree study, so it's interesting seeing the mix there. What I will say is being the first time here and being one of only, I literally know 2 other people in this entire event before this. So it's a lot of new faces for me, a lot of new folks that I'll probably never see again, but unless I come to something like this again. But it's an interesting mix, certainly a different dynamic at play with the types of meetings that you have, 25 minutes per person that you meet with over the course of 9 hours in a given day, with a lunch in between, a couple of refreshment breaks. But it's a long slog, and people's names and faces will start to blur together. So I've been trying to take very good notes on this. So we'll see how all of these shake out. But certainly of the morning meetings so far, the 8 I've had so far, there's at least 1, maybe 2 that I can say we're probably going to start to work together and develop some partnerships. So that's this event. After this event, which finishes Saturday evening, I'm flying back to the States on Sunday night on a red eye back to the U.S. 10:50 p.m. or so, and found out right before I left, one of our providers that we work with, FPP, my contact there, found out I was going to be in São Paulo on Sunday, which happens to be the day that they're doing a fair. And they offered me a free invite to the fair. So I'll be doing that literally for 6 hours, 5-6 hours before I get on a flight back to the States on Sunday afternoon and evening. So it's been a full week and a bit of events and covering all the bases here, agent event here, 2 university events, partnership events with here in São Paulo and back in Guayaquil. And a student recruitment event in São Paulo on Sunday. So very full week, and certainly seeing and certainly better understanding this market in terms of the diversity of students that are represented in Latin America, of languages, of cultural backgrounds. It's not a monolithic area at all by any stretch. Every country, even in cities within a country, are different. Had a wonderful conversation with a woman who's based in Curitiba, and she was sharing her why she's now looking at the United States, because one of her daughters is very keen on coming to the U.S., and she's feeling this is an opportunity for her to expand her business into the U.S. as opposed to just Canada. So we're really excited about potentially working with her. But a lot of positives coming out of this. Again, why is it happening? Because I'm here having the conversations with them. And this is a type of event that I wouldn't necessarily do if I've been at an institution for several years, or because and have established partnerships. But as I've mentioned many times about our work at UNLV, our institution is new to international in terms of formal recruitment. We've had, again, colleges and departments at the university have done their own thing for a while before the current president came in and established, we're going to internationalize here, so we're going to be intentional about it. We're going to kind of coordinate efforts. So this is the first time we've really sent anybody overseas to recruit direct and establish these relationships and partnerships that are going to be foundational to our long-term success. So building that foundation here in Latin America through partnerships, through agents, institutions, and then hopefully some students coming in the coming months and years as a result of these relationships that we're building. So it's a market in Latin America that anyone who's been here before knows it's very relational based, very heavy on family, and how important that is. And or even with working with institutions, nothing is going to be sign an agreement one month and then the next semester you're going to have 60 students. It's not like that. It's not India. It's not China. It's a very different beast in terms of how things work. So for us, it's an opportunity to become known in the market with the relationships we establish institutionally, certainly with our agent partners here, and hopefully some future students. So we'll see how this all turns out over the coming weeks and months. But so far so good on this Latin American journey. I'm going to be heading back, as I mentioned, to the States Sunday evening and back to the home office on Tuesday morning. So looking forward to chatting with you again in the coming weeks and months. Thanks to those who've watched live today. Really appreciate you being a part of the conversation, and we'll be in touch in the coming days. All the best until next time. Cheers.